Okay, so this time we're starting with a graph. And I hope that you can either get vertex form or factored form just by looking at that thing. You should be able to say, oh, I know the vertex form. That's y equals blah, blah, blah. Or I know factored form. General form you're not going to get just by looking. But try to get the other two forms just by seeing the points that are on this graph. And then general form you generally get by multiplying one of the other forms out. So get it, multiply it out, you'll have general form. The axis of symmetry, again, I'm hoping it's just staring right at you. If you know what the axis of symmetry is, you already know the answer for that. The vertex should be an easy one. The roots, they should be easy. What is this f of 0 thing? Well, that's where x is 0, which is where what? The what is where x is 0? The y-intercept is where x is 0. All right, so that's another way to ask the y-intercept. And then lastly, f of 2. I just picked a random thing like, what if I stuck in 2? Oh, you can't even do it on the picture. Hint, don't do it on the picture then. Do it in the graph, or sorry, the equation. So get the equation first and then do f of 2. It's a really easy question, but you just can't do it by looking at the graph because I don't have 2 on the graph. It'd be way down here somewhere. So yeah, the answer is a big negative number. All right, I'm going to pause for a second while you answer these few questions. Okay, just to get you started, in case you aren't this far, you're in trouble. Like as in not, I'm mad at you. It's more just you're lost if you don't know already this form. It's x plus 3 and x plus 1. And oh, wait, one more thing. Who remembered? The negative. It's so easy to forget that negative because this thing's upside down. See what I'm talking about? It's not a parabola that's like this. It's a parabola that's upside down. So you need that negative here. Otherwise, you're wrong. Okay. So we got x plus 3 and x plus 1 with a negative in front. If that goofed you up, then you better go back and fix things because that negative is a big deal. Okay, so vertex form, well, I need the vertex. It's negative 2, comma 1. That's the vertex. Well, that's this answer. Good. But the vertex form would be, I bet somebody in here forgot the negative again. It's got to have a negative in front. X plus 2 squared plus 1. Who had it right? Raise your hand if you had it right. Okay, good. And then general form. Generally, you just multiply it out. I'm multiplying that out. X squared plus 4x plus 3. And then I'd cry a little bit and mark it wrong because the kid forgot the negative again. Okay, that negative has to be multiplied in. That negative here goes on everything. Negative x squared minus 4x minus 3.
Could you multiply out the vertex one to get?
Yes, and it would come out exactly the same if you did it right.
Okay, so it doesn't need to be.
Doesn't need to be the factored form. That's called factored form. And yeah, that multiplies easier in my opinion, but this one will still multiply out to the same exact thing. Either way, you should have got negative x squared minus 4x minus 3. Okay, axis of symmetry. Obvious, it's right there, the dotted line, and that's x equals negative 2. Don't forget the x equals. Next thing, the roots. I know they're negative 3 and negative 1, but if you write this, you get it wrong because you didn't say what they were. You could either say x equals, or you could say since x equals this at the y, I'm sorry, no, the x-intercepts, which is where y is 0, you could put comma 0. I like to put them as points. I'll accept either on the test, but you can't just say negative 3. You have to either say x equals negative 3 or say negative 3 comma 0. If you stick in 0 into this equation, you'll figure out where it touches, and I believe it's negative 8. Remind me if that's right. Did you get negative 8 when you stuck in 0 or not? Maybe I didn't. Okay. Sorry, I confused this problem with a different problem then. If I stick in 0, I get 3 and 1. Oh, it's negative 3. Sorry about that. One of my other problems, it'll come out to negative 8. Raise your hand if you had negative 3 for the y-intercept. Okay, awesome. And lastly, stick in 2 in the equation because you can't see it on the picture. If I put a 2 in, it could be in any form. I'm going to choose this form this time. I'm going to stick the 2 in there, and it could have been in any of them. It'll give you the same answer, which is negative 4 plus 1, negative. Wait a minute. Hold on. Double checking myself. Ah, 4 squared is 16. Negative 16 plus 1. What's negative 16 plus 1? Negative 15. Probably one of the tougher ones.
Does it matter what?
No, you can put that 2 into vertex, factored, or general form. It does not matter. All right, so we should talk about what the forms are good for. And this one I've said a billion times that this is good for telling you the what? The y-intercept. That's good for telling you the y-intercept because it's just sitting right there. It's 8. But it's also good for saying there's no negative in front here. So therefore, this parabola is right side up. And what does that tell you? It tells you if the parabola has a max or a min by looking at the lead coefficient. Do you get that this lead coefficient is positive and therefore it's like this and therefore it has a minimum? And as soon as I write one that's like this, I just have to look at the front number, and that's negative, so I know it's upside down. So I know this parabola would have a maximum because of that. All right, next thing. If you had that, would you be able to see the vertex just sitting right there? So this is vertex form. Okay, next. Could I multiply it all the way out and get general form? Yep. Could I multiply it all the way out and then refactor it and maybe I'll get factored form? Yeah, I would. But how can I guarantee you that cannot be the right answer? It's missing something. Yes. That's missing a negative. That now it maybe could be, but I'd have to multiply it all the way out and find out. See if this guy's general form came out to the same as that guy's general form. I really doubt it because I made this up just on the spot randomly. Not likely that they have the same general form. But at least now they both have a negative in front, so they have a chance. All right, last thing, what does factored form give you? I can tell you something out of this and this so quick. X-intercepts. The x-intercepts are negative 3 and negative 5. Okay. All right. So what else do you need to know? Here is some factoring that you may have forgotten. X squared minus 25. If you know how to factor that, factor it, because if you can factor it, you should. And then it'll tell you the roots. And then from that, you'll be able to tell what the axis of symmetry is. Because if you know where the two spots are that it touches, you know a lot. I'll pause for a second while you factor that. Good. All right. If you know this pattern, it's super easy. It's x plus 5 and x minus 5. So what's the axis of symmetry? It runs right down the middle of negative 5 and 5. You get what I'm saying? So it must run right down there. Did you have x equals 0 as your axis of symmetry? Awesome. Then what's the y-intercept? Y-intercept is the same as, well, it's sort of the vertex, isn't it? The y-intercept and the vertex are the same thing here. Is that possible? Yes. So it's kind of like this, right? Do you know where its y-intercept is? Its y-intercept is where, now I'm using this y here. Y-intercept is where x is 0. I stick in a 0, and I get negative 25. The y-intercept is negative 25. Yes? Good. All right. Feel free to ask. It's never a dumb question. If you're asking the question, I know there's a couple other people that also don't know. All right. Here's one that's a little tougher. 2x squared plus 8. No, wait, minus 8. Sorry, minus 8. That'll factor, but you have to do something first. I'm pausing while you give this one a try. All right, I will make sure the key is posted tonight. The 2 comes out, and I have x squared minus 4. That's the key to this question, because as soon as you get that far, you'll probably know that you can factor it again. What? I like that what. If this is set equal to 0, so we can find where y is 0, that's where the x-intercepts are. If you can find the x-intercepts by factoring this again. Are you picking up what I'm laying down? X minus 2, x plus 2. Doesn't matter which order. Raise your hand if you understood that. Okay, good. All right, then one more toughie that's kind of like that. 2x squared. No, sorry. 6x squared minus 6 equals 0. question would be either what's factored form or what's the axis of symmetry, which would be like, what? First, figure out the factors, factor it, and then you'll know what the roots are. Then you'll know it's the line that goes right down the middle. You've made it through half of your math class. A little bit past half. Tomorrow's classes are going to be ludicrously short. Have you seen the schedule? Yeah, 35-minute classes. So normal is 50-something, so way shorter classes. Okay. All right. Did you notice that 2 can come out, but then you'd probably get stumped? Did you notice that 6 can come out? And then did you notice that this still can be factored again? I hope so, because a lot of people get stuck with that 1 because they're like, well, 1 can't be factored. Yes, it can. X plus 1, x minus 1. Final answers are x equals negative 1 for this, and x equals 1 for that. And this is factored form. These are the roots. What if I asked for the axis of symmetry? It'd be the line that runs right down the middle of those two. If I make a picture of it, it might be easier. Here's 1, here's negative 1. Dotted line right there, x equals 0. How about what's the vertex? Well, it has to be on that line. It has to be on this line. The vertex is either here, or it's like here, or it's here, or it's here. It has to be on that line, so that line is at x equals 0. So if you know it's 0 comma something, this is one of the hardest concepts. People don't know what to do to get the actual spot that is the vertex. You just stick the 0 in. You stick the 0 in your equation, except I got to get this back to being a y. And then I stick 0 in here. When I put a 0 in here, that's all gone. Y equals negative 6. Here's another way to see that besides that. If I graph this, do you get this is a parabola? Okay, and if I were to find its lowest spot, if it touches here and it touches here, I'm not sure, my brain just stopped working for a second. What was the y-intercept supposed to be? All right, and what's going on in my head? I'm feeling like something's wrong. I'm feeling like it can't be negative 6. If I stick in 0, do I really get negative 6? If I set that equal to y, then yeah, I do. If it says y equals blah, blah, blah. Is it negative? Do you guys agree it's negative 6? All right. I don't understand why that doesn't seem like it should be negative 6 to me. Oh, I know, because it's been stretched so much. It seems like a parabola should hit like 1, but this has been stretched so much that it goes way down here to negative 6. And now that makes sense to me because this is a stretch factor of 6. So it's a parabola, it's got stretched a lot. That's why it didn't seem like it should be at negative 6, but it is. All right, last thing, last concept. You ready? Stay refocus, regroup. Ready? Ready? Last thing. All right. This is where I don't give you a picture, and I don't give you an equation. What? Huh? How are you supposed to know where the thing is if I don't give you a picture or an equation? I just give you a few points that are key, important points. All right? So it's kind of like giving you part of the graph, but I give it to you in point form. So I'd like you to use your graph paper. I don't have any up right now, but use your graph paper and then plot these important points, and then you'll be able to tell what the equation is, and then you'll be able to answer the questions. All right, so here's one of your roots is at 0, 0 is a root. What does that mean? Well, it's obviously a point on the graph, but you should know also that that's something else. All right. Then one of your other roots is at 4, comma 0. So it has roots at 0, 0 and 4, 0. Next, I'm going to say it has no stretch factor, but it has been reflected over x. So it is an upside down parabola because of the fact it's been reflected. You know it's an upside down one. So my question is, what's the vertex? Now, if you just stare at all the words, it's just going to be confusing. But make a picture, because a picture's worth 1,000 words. Once you got a picture going, and you know what this thing must look like, you can figure out the vertex. And then once you know the vertex, I'd like you to write me the equation in vertex form. So find me the vertex, and then find me the vertex form equation. I'll pause while we give that a try. All right, so from here, we had some directions about how this thing had to look, and now we were recreating what it must look like. And so far, I just forgot when I was making my factored form to put in this negative in front. Okay, so it's y equals all that. Now, some kids are going to say, why don't you just put the x alone? It's okay to do that. You can say x plus 0 in a parenthesis, or you can just leave the x alone out in front. Either way works. Okay, then vertex form of the equation. It'd be good if I knew the vertex to do the vertex form, right? Well, hopefully you knew what to do with this x equals 2 line that runs down the middle of it. Did you know that you could take the 2 and stick it into the equation? And you might be like, what equation? We don't have an equation. This equation would work. So I'm going to stick in the 2 here and see what I get. And then I have 2 minus 4 is negative 2 times negative 2 makes positive 4. Does positive 4 seem believable for that? Yes. So it is at x equals 2, so 2 comma, and then I stick the 2 in the equation and figure out that it came out to 4. There we go. I answered the first question, which was what is the vertex? Now the vertex form, y equals, and oh, this would be so painful because all of that work, and you'd go down the drain for forgetting one little thing. What did I forget again? The negative, because it's upside down. Now, if you wanted, like, remember me saying that like, if your life depended on it, you'd probably check. Like, if we were actually, like, building a plane, you were going to be flying, and you're going to be like, I don't want it to crash at 3,000 feet. So you'd probably check your work. Well, then how do I check this? I can stick in 4, 0 in this equation, and it should work. And it wouldn't have if I didn't have that negative. You know what I mean? I would have caught it right there. When I stick in a 4 and a 0, does this actually work now? Yeah, it actually equals 0. But if it didn't have that negative, it wouldn't have. And that would have been my way of catching, like, oh, I'm doing something wrong. So remember, famous words of Ice-T, the rapper, check yourself before you wreck yourself. It's worth that painful way to remember it. Just please take your equations, stick a number in them, make sure they actually work. Okay? All right. So now your homework for tonight is a big old worksheet. It covers a ton of stuff. If you don't know everything tonight, it's actually okay. We still have tomorrow, but tomorrow's a shortened class period. So you really got to have it down by the end of tomorrow for sure. All right? Get as much done in your worksheet as you can. Come with questions, and we'll have more review tomorrow. That's all I got for you for today. Say